just to show you what the fuck I'm talking about here. This is copy from a very popular online math, well, just general teaching service. Okay, so 2 to the third power, 2 to the 3, is the same as multiplying 3 2's together. 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So in this case, the exponent 3 tells you how many times to multiply the base number by itself. Note that there's two sentences. There's only two sentences, and they are saying different things. But the second sentence is meant to confirm that what was shown in the first sentence was correct. It's meant to say the same thing as the first sentence. Right? Okay. So 2 to the third power is the same as multiplying 3 2's together. Okay. So we get 2 by 2. Well, there's 3 2's. And they're multiplied together. Okay. This is sentence 1 gives us this. Sentence 2, however, tells you how many times to multiply the base number by itself. So sentence 2 tells us that we start with 2, and then we have 3 multiplications by 2. Okay, so what happens when we get this? Fuck it, what happens when we get this? Is it 2 multiplied by itself once? Or is it 1, 2 multiplied together? Either way, that doesn't make sense. If you have 1, 2, how is it multiplied together? If it's 2 to the first, and that tells us that we have 2 multiplied by itself once, that's this. Which, hate to break it to you, that's 2 squared. But now, if we follow our rule, 2 squared needs to be this. But nope, that's 2 cubed. But if we follow the rule, then that means we're doing this. And you see the problem? You see why kids don't understand? You see? You see what's going on here? And now, what do we do with this? 2 to the 0 is 2 times itself. How many times? No times? So people, of course students are going to say, oh, to the 0 power is 0. Of course they're going to say that. Because of what you told them how exponents work. Of course they're going to say that. They're not being stupid. It's not a developmental problem. It's not because it hasn't been explained to them. It's because it hasn't been explained to them in a way that's not bullshit. This is trash. And it doesn't remotely address how this can be possible. 16 to the 5/4, as we just saw in 2 videos. I derived it myself, and then I showed you an online calculator that uses de Moivre's theorem, which I had never fucking heard of before. And I can imagine why. Because I was raised by boomers who don't know jack shit about anything. This is positive 32, or negative 32, or positive 32i, or negative 32i. And really, technically, this is a positive 16 raised to this power, because if it's just the number 16 raised to this power, then it has to be 32, technically. So if it's really this, let's just clarify that so there's no confusion. Hopefully I'm writing it correctly. If it's actually 16 to the 5/4, the dimensionless, bare dimensionless 16. That's not a positive 16. So it can't have negative roots. It's not related to the complex unit circle. That is simply going to be 32. It only has a fourth root of 2. That's it. And I believe this might actually kind of be related to some of the confusion. It's just that, see, and probably somebody has said this correctly at some point too, and because the second half of the 20th century happened, nobody fucking remembers it except for, like, NASA. So, Jesus Christ. I'm sure people who learned math in other countries are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How did you not know about this? It's because of the baby boom in the US. It completely destroyed our education system. So we were told just a bunch of stupid shit that's not even remotely accurate because there were so many kids in the 50s and 60s that they actually just literally broke the education system. There weren't enough teachers to teach everyone. So the adults that grew up from that generation just didn't know how stuff worked. It's not anybody's fault, but it is true that that's what happened. And we're all paying the price for it now because Jesus Christ, nobody in the US knows how to do anything now because the baby boom happened. Right? It's not their fault. I'm not saying it's their fault. So, yeah, my frustration is with them, but it's not their fault. They didn't ask to be born. I understand this. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, like, it's because of the boomers. Fuck. Like, I remember being shown that fractional exponents could give you this. But always, if the exponent was larger than 1, it had to be real. I remember seeing that. I don't know who the fuck wrote that. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, no, if it's dimensionless, if the 16 is dimensionless, it has to be like this. And if the 16 is positive, if it's properly a positive 16, it has to be like this. So there is still that distinction being made. And this is just utterly unreconcilable with any of this bullshit. Because you can't even get to, like, how do you tackle, I mean, yeah, how do you tackle this, right? Just that alone is already impossible to explain this way. But, like, a negative exponent, how the fuck do you deal with that with this explanation? It's 2 times itself negative 3 times? So what does that mean? Okay, so if the negative of multiplication is division, 2 divided by 2 divided by 2 divided by 2, well, that's 1 on 2 twice, because these guys just turn into 1. Right, so that's actually this, but then we apply the definition again, and then we'll get this, and then we apply the definition again, and then we'll actually get this, but then we try to figure that out, and then we go to just 0. So we walk through a whole bunch of bullshit, and then end up confused. And guess what? That's exactly what students do when they're first taught how to do exponents, because they're being told this bullshit. That's nonsense. And it still doesn't remotely address what's actually going on, because, fuck, not only does it not work with simple things like 2 to the 0 power, 0 to the 0 power, it doesn't even remotely touch this bullshit. Like, when I was in high school, I read Contact by Carl Sagan, and there was a part in the end where, like, the girl, whatever the hell her name is like looking at this, like, this data that the calculations for pi and different whatever the fuck bases and shit, or maybe it's even earlier. I don't know. At some point in there, there's somebody brings up. I think it's her. Somebody brings up the question. Well, is there just something fundamental that we missed about math? Yes, there is. There's a lot of fundamental shit that we just missed about math, and maybe it was known in the 1800s, but it's not known now. At least not widely, and that's a fucking problem. This is why, like, if your kid is diagnosed with dyscalculia, it's because they have shit teachers. It's not because they have an actual learning disability. It's because how fuck you can't do this the way that they're saying. These two sentences, there's only two sentences in this explanation, and they contradict each other. And neither of them work as an explanation for exponents. Even basic exponents, like the most basic integer exponents, it still doesn't fucking work. What the hell?